risk of large hail damaging winds and even tornadoes are all possible through this evening, and then possibly transitioning over to a flash flood situation after 9 or 10 o'clock tonight through the morning hours tomorrow. So first alert day for everybody. We are expecting to see severe storms. A severe storm watch from the Storm Prediction Center has been issued for the areas highlighted in orange on this map. The watch does mention that tornadoes can't be ruled out, and we have storms extending through the Horton area to Holton at this time. Also seeing storms popping up in northwest Shawnee County from Silver Lake to Rossville, Maple Hill area to Eskridge, seeing some thunderstorms in the vicinity. And nothing severe yet, but certainly the risk is there, and these storms are blossoming. There is a tornado warning right now in the southern part of Iowa. So we have this prefrontal trough moving through now, but during the evening hours, a cold front will sweep through and bring another round of potentially severe weather. It's going to be a wild evening. I think we'll have quite a few warnings in the area. A tornado warning or two certainly possible, but we'll probably have a dozen or more severe storm warnings issued between now and the middle of the night. I'll have your first alert 8-day forecast and more about this storm system coming up shortly.
Thanks, Jeremy. With Kansas topping 7,500 COVID-19 cases now since the pandemic began and several hundred new cases reported each day, Governor Laura Kelly is slowing plans for reopening the state. The governor issued an executive order today outlining what she calls phase 1.5. She said the daily rate of spread has not fallen enough to fully move to phase 2 on Monday. So instead, bars and nightclubs will remain closed, and instead of being allowed to open at 50% capacity, also remaining closed, community centers, theaters, organized sports facilities and practices. These also were slated to reopen Monday. Fitness centers will be allowed to reopen. However, no group classes, and locker rooms may only be used for restroom facilities. Salons may open by appointment only, and gatherings will remain limited to 10 people or fewer. The cap was to be raised to 30. This new phase 1.5 will be in place 2 weeks, so until at least June 1st. We have a link to that full plan on WIBW.com. Shawnee County's own COVID-19 response team says the county will follow suit with the governor's plans. They already had a few modifications from the original schedule that they planned. Dr. Gianfranco Pizzino outlined the situation at this morning's Shawnee County Commission meeting. They already plan to limit gatherings to 10 people or less. Pizzino said the ratio of positive to negative COVID-19 cases is going down, but that's because hospitals are testing people who do not have symptoms. As the county begins to reopen, Pizzino urges people to abide by the guidelines.
Critical situation I can imagine, though, is one in which an infectious person decides to deliberately ignore the order to be on isolation. I think those are two situations in which I would not hesitate to send law enforcement to say, either you're doing nicely or they're going to do it for you.
Shawnee County health officials also announced plans to begin some mobile testing services. Those would still be only for people with symptoms. The process to decontaminate N95 masks for reuse is underway in Kansas. More than 300 healthcare providers and first responders in the state signed up to use the system installed at Forbes Field. The federal government contracted with the science and technology company Battelle to supply the sterilization units in 35 different states. Hospitals and first responders send their used masks double bagged and labeled as a biohazard. Those handling the masks wear level 4 protective equipment to run them through the process. Then they double bag them again and spray down the sealed boxes with 70% ethanol for extra caution. The process takes up to 72 hours.
We're certainly satisfied that the science is there that backs this up. FDA is also, they've signed off on it. Otherwise we wouldn't be here. So, we're very confident that this is an effective process.
Curran says masks can be decontaminated up to 20 times. Each unit can clean about 10,000 masks a day. A Kansas-born public health official testified before Congress over his firing from the National Institutes of Health. Dr. Rick Bright has served as director of the Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority. Bright says he was removed last month from his job directing a vaccine team because he refused to advocate for the widespread use of hydroxychloroquine, the malaria drug President Trump has cited as a possible remedy to COVID-19. Bright, who is from Hutchinson, told the House Subcommittee on Health today why he decided to speak out.
If we fail to improve our response now, based on science, I fear the pandemic will get worse and be prolonged. There will be likely a resurgence of COVID-19 this fall. Without better planning, 2020 could be the darkest winter in modern history.
Health and Human Services officials say Bright's complaint is one-sided and full of misinformation. As states across the country continue lifting social distancing measures, demonstrations against stay-at-home orders are getting heated. More than 84,000 Americans now have died of COVID-19 and more than 1.4 million have been infected. Elise Preston reports.
Angry protesters, some of them armed, gathered at the Michigan State Capitol demanding Governor Gretchen Whitmer lift stay-at-home orders.
She says she's going by the science. She's opening the state up by the science. I don't think she knows what science is.
The demonstrations come just a day after Wisconsin's stay-at-home order was thrown out, allowing bars and other businesses to welcome customers.
It's been kind of boring sitting in my house.
In Madison County, Illinois, local officials have already given businesses like restaurants and gyms the green light amid the coronavirus pandemic.
Yoo-hoo!
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says retail shops, salons, and restaurants in Miami-Dade and Broward counties can begin reopening Monday.
This would be an approach that would be rooted in facts, not in fear.
A new CBS News poll finds a large majority of the public still prioritizes staying home to slow the outbreak over reopening the economy. But now there's a growing gap between Republicans and others on reopening.
62% of Republicans want the country to prioritize going back to work, even if it exposes more people to the virus. That's up 10 points from 3 weeks ago in late April.
Everybody wants to reopen. The question is how you reopen. And from the national experts, global experts, make sure you don't reopen too soon.
Part of hard-hit New York will begin reopening Friday, while restrictions in New York City could be lifted in June.
Every other crisis we've been through, it had an endpoint. This one will have an endpoint too.
Officials in New York continue to look into cases of an inflammatory illness attacking children, possibly linked to COVID-19. Doctors in more than a dozen other states in Washington, D.C. are also investigating cases. Elise Preston, CBS News, New York.
New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy announced today the Jersey Shore and lakefront beaches in his state will be open by Memorial Day. A typhoon is wreaking havoc on the Philippines as authorities try to balance social distancing with emergency evacuation. Let's get that situation from Ralph Hipp in the newsroom today. Ralph?
Right. Good afternoon. And a big emergency there, Melissa, as authorities in the Philippines have evacuated tens of thousands of people there, but struggle to abide by the social distancing guidelines with all those people. Authorities were ushering citizens to emergency shelters while trying to avoid spreading the virus. This typhoon came in while Filipinos are locked in their homes and prohibited from any gatherings that would spread COVID-19. Typhoon Vongfong registered gusts of over 115 miles an hour. The storm forecast to blow across some densely populated eastern provinces and cities before exiting the area to the north on Sunday. The FBI has seized the cell phone belonging to Republican Senator from North Carolina Richard Burr. It's part of a probe into a controversial stock sales before the outbreak. A law enforcer told the Los Angeles Times that Senator Burr, who now has stepped aside as chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, turned his cell phone over to federal agents serving a search warrant. The FBI has been checking whether he had exploited his advance information when he dumped as much as $1.7 million of stock in the days before the coronavirus was wreaking havoc on our economy. On to South Korea now. They are disinfecting the streets along the Itaewon nightlife neighborhood in Seoul after a large number of new infections were traced to nightclubs and bars in this area. Workers in protective suits had sprayed disinfectant in front of the nightclubs. That is where authorities say the confirmed coronavirus patients visited. Some of the establishments have temporary closure signs and bans on large gatherings of people. And now a total of 133 cases have been linked to that outbreak. Melissa, South Korean authorities believe it was started by one man who was 29 years old who visited 5 bars and nightclubs in that area in one night.
All right, appreciate the update, Ralph. Thank you so much for that. The Kansas Department of Transportation and Governor Kelly announced new road projects for the state. One of those, upgrading the Polk Quincy Viaduct through downtown Topeka. The project's part of a program they're calling the Eisenhower Legacy Transportation Program, or IKE. Under IKE, the state will pick new road projects every 2 years. According to the current plan, the existing viaduct going through downtown would be replaced with a 6-lane freeway. That project will cost about $81 million, and it's not known when it will start or how long it would take. Governor Kelly says the viaduct and its sharp curves have needed an overhaul for a long time.
Replacing the Polk Quincy Viaduct in Topeka, which was built in 1963. As a longtime resident and former Topeka legislator, I know this has been a focus for the community for decades.
You'll hear what the Greater Topeka Partnership says the impact of this could be coming up on our news at 6. No need to worry about going out on the town if you feel okay, right? Well, find out why that's the wrong idea when it comes to COVID later on Live at 5. Also ahead, how local schools are honoring graduates virtually. And the Topeka Zoo welcomes back its first visitors.
You're watching 13 News at 5 with Melissa Bruner. 13 News, Kansas News Leader. You're watching 13 News, Kansas News Leader.
If you're looking for a furry friend with a story of strength, you might consider this kitten found in Valley Falls. He's Tony the Tabby. He survived a drowning attempt in a bucket. Sadly, his 3 litter mates did not. He is now at the Jefferson County Humane Society. Been there since Tuesday. They say he is comfortably adapting to his new crew, which they call the Scarface litter. Despite a scary start, Tony's already a social kitty.
He was pretty scared at first, but now I'd say that he's pretty adventurous. If you don't see him sleeping, he likes to sleep all the time. He's crawling all over the rest of his brothers and sisters and just, playing with them. So he's pretty outgoing as cats go.
They expect Tony to do very well. He's not ready to be adopted just yet, but if you are interested, you can fill out a form on the Jefferson County Humane Society's website. That's jfcountypets.com. You can put Tony down as the animal you're interested, but as you can see, they have some other little kitties as well. Manhattan Mayor Usha Reddy is suspending her campaign for U.S. Senate. Reddy made the announcement today. She says she needs to focus on mayoral duties and help manage the effects of COVID-19 on the Little Apple. Reddy began her second term as Manhattan Mayor in January. The Democratic candidates vying to replace Republican Pat Roberts are now led by Barbara Boyer. Washburn University President Jerry Farley says he wants graduating seniors to know the university is celebrating their accomplishments. In-person commencement is canceled, but Farley says they'll display the names of 2020 graduates on the electronic billboard in front of Lee Arena. They'll send diplomas and tassels in the mail. Farley also says Washburn will print a program with the names of all graduates, and they'll post speeches from himself, the vice president of the university, and the deans from each school online.
Commencement ceremonies are one of the highlights of our academic year. We wanted to make this continue to be important to students, even though we can't do our standard kind of commencement ceremony.
Washburn will post a celebration of graduates video May 16th. That is the original day for commencement ceremonies. We're starting to hear a little thunder roll around the Topeka area. Jeremy Goodwin has your first alert forecast and your look at that storm chance next.
This is your first alert.
Start with the TV with me voicing over it, then come to me.
This is your first alert weather forecast with Jeremy Goodwin.
Live look just outside the TV station from a live camera I stationed out there, and that is a thunderstorm just to the west of Topeka. You're hearing some rumbles of thunder on the west side of the capital city. That's what it's from, is that vertical storm tower that's developed just to the west of the capital city. There's going to be more of these, a lot more of these through the evening. As a matter of fact, we have a first alert day for all of northeast Kansas as we're expecting to see severe storms, large hail, damaging winds, and even a risk of seeing a tornado or two between now and midnight. After that, a flash flooding risk will exist all the way through sunrise tomorrow morning. So first alert day for everybody in the area. We're looking at the area shaded in red here where the tornado risk is possible. 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. is the key time I'm looking at for that being a potential. After 1 a.m., very unlikely. Before 7 p.m., I don't think the storms will have enough time to get wrapped up. But between 7 p.m. and 1, please pay close attention. Isolated storms have already begun. We'll see hail up to the size of golf balls in a few spots, and also the wind potential up to 70 miles per hour. If you haven't already, go ahead and download the WIBW weather app to your smartphone. You can get it on the App Store and, of course, on Google Play. Here is the official severe storm watch. It goes until midnight. Now, some folks were asking me on Facebook and email, do you think the Weather Service will issue a tornado watch or a severe thunderstorm watch? Well, if you read the full text of a severe storm watch, it almost always says tornadoes can't be ruled out, and that's what kind of situation this is. There's a threshold at which they'll tip one way or the other, but in this case, do not think that tornadoes are impossible in this. It's a severe storm watch, and we will see severe storm warnings, but there's a possibility we could see a tornado or two in the area as well. On the Capitol Federal Live Storm Tracker, we've got storms developing and doing so rapidly now. Strong storms from Holton to Whiting, not severe, at least not yet. The rumbles of thunder you're hearing just west of Topeka. I showed you that on my camera that's sitting outside the building. That lightning coming from the shower that's developing near Rossville. Over to Maple Hill, we have some thunderstorm activity in progress, and there's more activity developing southwest of Emporia that will keep us busy through the evening. I do expect to see many warnings this evening, probably a dozen or maybe even a few more severe storm warnings. They're already popping up in parts of Iowa, northwest Missouri. Our line is really just starting to get aggravated, and the better dynamics in the atmosphere don't arrive until really closer to dark. And this cold front, as it starts rolling through this evening, will really start to aggravate this thing as well. So this is kind of the first round. The storm's developing close to the Kansas Turnpike right now, could become strong or severe. This stuff coming in along with the cold front, very likely to have widespread warnings with that. You'll have hailers with this, some spots where very strong winds are possible as well. But anything north of the cold front, tornado risk is virtually zero. So that's why I'm saying until one, we'll be worried about tornado risks. After that, that's when the heavy rain continues on and off through the night. Some spots, especially Emporia, Burlington, could get in a 2 to 3 inch rain category by tomorrow morning. That's a real possibility. So heavy rain tonight, flash flooding risk is in place. Topeka could see an inch of rain. I really think spots to the south, like Emporia, Burlington, could see 2 or 3 inches of rain by sunrise tomorrow morning. And again, we have this risk of seeing large hail, damaging winds, and even tornadoes. And that risk, the severe storm watch itself at least, goes till midnight. The flash flooding risk is going to last much later than that. We'll have rain tomorrow as well. The risk for severe weather tomorrow is much lower. Saturday, more rain. And right now, it looks like we could take the rain out of the forecast by noon on Sunday, finally getting some dry weather. Next week looks a lot more like summer with highs in the 80s almost every day. Melissa.
Well, nice to see the sun return. Thank you, Jeremy. Scientists are warning of COVID-19 super spreaders. It's those who have the virus but aren't showing any symptoms. We'll get a look at how some clusters are believed to be linked to them next.